welcome back to the YouTube. I need to shave, man. This is not good. But yeah, anyways, apologies for the little hiatus, or I say little, was a pretty long one. The plan with the YouTube was to obviously keep consistent as possible, but I did not do that. So this is the comeback of Mr. HB Fit. But yeah, I'm gonna try my best to post a little bit more consistently. However, there are no promises there. But yeah, like I said, there's not too much planned with today's video. I haven't really got much to do. I do have a pool day later on, which will be exciting. Probably run through a little bit of training, kind of give you a bit of analysis into how I'm managing training this far into prep, which for the most part, training's going really well still, which is cool. Progressing still pretty consistently as well. So just goes to show that if you are in a diet phase, there should be no excuse, in my opinion, especially early doors, to be losing crazy amounts of strength. You know, I am nearly 15 weeks into prep and I'm still progressing. So if you are somebody who is currently in the diet phase and you are noticing your strength start to dip, or your execution starting to slip a little bit more than usual, then there is something going wrong. Whether that is you're in too steep of a deficit, or you're just not showing up to your training as much as you could be. And as you've seen in the intro, popped up some check-in shots that I sent over to Mr. Josh Campbell. Now it is, what time is it? It is 9:03 at the moment. We just wrapped up 5,500 steps, which we do every morning. Always non-negotiables get done. But yeah, I think if you are somebody who struggles a lot with like routine, structure, and maybe you even work quite a busy schedule, then my best advice to anybody, and something that even before prep, like it was kind of something that I started during the pre-prep, was just getting your shit done early as possible. Now 5,500 steps, I probably don't need to do this early on, because at the end of the day, I'm going to accumulate 12,000 just throughout the day, you know, whether that's at the gym, walking to the gym, you know, just work, stuff like that. So realistically, it's going to get done either way, but having it done as early as possible just makes my life so much easier. I know by the time the evening rolls around, I don't have to be chasing my steps quite physically, but sitting there chasing my tail and thinking, oh shit, I've still got this many steps left. So yeah, if you are somebody that struggles with routine, try your hardest to get up earlier. Like for me, I'm always up at 5:30, 6 in the morning, getting out, whether it's 45 to even just 20 minutes walk. Like for one, you're going to feel so much better for doing it, you know, getting your body moving, getting outside, and with the weather getting nicer as well, you're going to be getting some fresh air, allowing your body to kind of just get moving. It's going to allow for better insulin sensitivity as well. But anyways, so how has prep been? Now I'm sure everybody wants to know. Now if you do keep up with like my Instagram and stuff, that is probably where I post the most. I am trying to be a bit more consistent with that as well. But prep has been pretty seamless, if I'm being honest. Like, I haven't had too many issues with it. And it simply just comes down to just enjoying the process. Like, doing this prep has made me realise how much I actually do love bodybuilding, you know. And I've been asked many times, like, oh, how are you finding it? And I genuinely just love it. Like, it's such a passion of mine and something that I just genuinely love doing, especially the prep side of things, where there is that big goal towards the end. Like, when you're in an off season, it's very hard to stick to that goal because there's not that end goal, you know. It's very much the same process day in, day out, and same with prep. But being able to see new lows, better looks, training performance still improving, it kind of just installs that passion a little bit more. Whereas obviously, as I said, during an off season, it's a little bit harder to keep that consistency, and you kind of do start to slip when it comes to standards. So yeah, just making sure that you do enjoy every moment, whether you are in a prep, diet or season, no matter the phase. But yeah, like I was saying, prep has been relatively easy. Now, yesterday was probably the hardest day of prep, just from like a fatigue standpoint and kind of just how I felt. Like I said, with it being not easy, but there hasn't been many days where I felt pretty fucked. Whereas yesterday, like, I had 9 hours of sleep, woke up feeling extremely tired, despite having a lot of sleep. Did not want to get out of bed. Obviously, I got out of bed regardless. Still got out, done my morning walk. But yeah, I really didn't want to do it, you know, and that is full transparency. I didn't want to get out of bed. I didn't want to go do my steps. I didn't want to do my cardio. Training felt draggy. And it was off the back of a leg day as well. So my legs had accumulated a fair bit of fatigue. So like heading out on the walk, it was just a draggy day. But as always, we got it done, you know, and that is what makes a physique, is actually showing up on the days where you don't want to do it, you know. That is what matters the most, and that kind of installs the bodybuilder that you want to be. But yeah, like I said, still just loving the process day in and day out. There has been not many changes since the last video and since I last checked in, kind of. The only change that we have made is minus 25 carbs on both a training day and rest day. But yeah, cardio is still the same. Same with steps as well. We have ran a couple de-output days, or whatever you want to call them, where I kind of run 6,000 steps rather than 12,000. And then on my last rest day, I was eating training day foods with 6,000 steps. Just again, rather than running too many high days, we kind of thought, what better way than to decrease a bit of overall expenditure, so that way we can drop off a little bit of fatigue, and kind of just get the body moving back to normal homeostasis. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens over the next coming weeks. Now, we are 2.5 weeks out from the first planned show, which is the PCA Naturals 2, which I'm so excited for. It's crazy how quick it's actually come by. The week leading up to the show will be peak week, so there's not going to be any real dig in there. So we pretty much got one more week to like fully dig. Then it'll kind of be freshening up, filling up, stuff like that. And then obviously competing. And then we've got, I think, 6 and 7. Done it again. 6, 7. That was fucking cringe. What the fuck? But yeah, 6 and 7 until the last 2 shows, which I am most looking forward to. as they will be like the best look, you know, will be the most conditioned. Whereas for the PCA Naturals, the plan is to come in 85, 90%, pretty much 100%, just like I'm not going to be skinned for that first show. Well, you never know, I may be. It's kind of just see how it goes, see what happens. But yeah, I'm now going to make my pre-workout meal, and then I'll pick up the camera once that is done. Right, so as promised in the intro, I did say that I'd give a bit of a brief run through on my current pull day. Or I say current, I've ran the same back day for the past 2 years now. I'm going to delve a little bit into that as to why and how that can be of benefit. Now, I'm kind of just going to chuck the clips up to the side here. And then kind of just run you through. So to start off, back is definitely one of my biggest weak points when it comes to like my overall physique, on top of arms, I'd say. But back is something that I've always struggled, not so much to connect with, but just the overall growth. I struggle to grow my back as a whole. So making sure that I am prioritizing the right movements has been very beneficial. And on top of that, focusing on just getting strong. Now, like I said, I've run the same split for 2 years when it comes to everything as a whole, you know. I've ran legs, push-pull, rest, lower upper, and then recently added in an arm day on the Sunday just to bring up my overall arms. But yeah, as I was saying, like making sure that you're running the same split for a long period of time to ensure that progressive overload is being met. Obviously, exercise selection is just as important. However, for me, and what I found worked the best, is just focusing on getting really strong within those movement patterns, and just running the same thing for a prolonged period of time. So yeah, as pull day itself, I always start my pull day with some type of lat bias pull down. As you can see in the clip, it is always single arm lat pull down. Now, a bit optimal, but the reason why I have this is a bit of a pre-exhaustion type of movement, and it also allows me to kind of just engage my lats ready for the second movement, which is kind of my big compound for the pull day, which is the belt squat RDL. Now, I've had many hinges throughout my plan, and this is probably the only one that I've stuck with and the one that I keep coming back to because it just fits the best for me, and I do get the most out of it. Now, I've tried stiff leg deadlifts, I've tried RDLs, and none of them really, I don't get the same level of connection that I do with the belt squat. So again, just trying to find movements and just fine tuning your training to where it suits your needs best. You know, there's no point having in movements that are totally optimal or what seem to be the most beneficial movements. What matters at the end of the day is what you enjoy, what you can progress on, and something that you can connect well with. So yeah, for this instance, we have obviously, like I said, start off the session with a single arm lat bias row, and then we move on to the belt squat RDL, and then we've got 2 rows in the plan. So after the belt squat RDL, we then have a plate loaded low row, which again, just focus on getting really strong. I have a bit more yeah buddy and a bit more body English towards a movement like this. Whereas as you'll see with like the cable lat pull down, for example, my body's fixed, got my shoulder dropped, and I'm really just trying to focus on engaging the lat. Whereas with a big row like this, and it works the same with my bent over row as well on my upper days, I'm more just focusing on getting strong and just kind of shifting a bit of weight and having fun with it. You know, I'm not trying to be too perfect with the movement, as long as I'm still getting a good internal feel throughout. So yeah, that is another thing to take into account. Like with certain movements, you don't need to be so optimal or so fixed with your, like the movement pattern, for example. You can, for some, to a certain extent, you can afford to create a bit more body English and start to incorporate a little bit more muscle fibers throughout. So after that, we then move on to seated cable row. So again, the 2 rows, and then we move on to rear delt flies, then preacher curls, which we do 3 sets there. Again, with my arms being a bit more of a lagging body part, just trying to prioritise as much stimulus as possible throughout that, which is hence why we have 3 sets for that. And then incline dumbbell curl, again 3 sets there, and then that is pull day done pretty much. And again, it's very simple. You know, we got 2 rows, 1 pull down, and 1 hinge, and then obviously biceps as well and rear delts. So, and obviously where I train my back twice a week, I can, again, the areas that I missed within my pull day, I can then prioritise towards my upper day. So yeah, it's kind of just finding what works best for you. And for me, this is what has made the most improvement to my back. So again, I do want to apologise for the brief hiatus when it comes to the YouTube. I'm going to try and keep it consistent. Now, leading up to the show, I've got a few things planned. Obviously, peak week, I'm going to try and film as much of that as possible, and kind of give everyone an insight into how I run peak week, how obviously my coach is going to program it for myself. And then for the actual show day itself, the PCA Naturals 2, I've got somebody come in to film that. So that'll be quite interesting and something new, rather than me just rambling for 20 odd minutes straight. But if you did make it this far, I appreciate every single one of you. If you have any suggestions or anything that you want to see, please do drop them below in the comments or shoot me a message on Instagram. And yeah, appreciate you guys watching. Like, subscribe, and all of those good things. And I will catch you in the next one.